To advance an organisation, employee training and development has long been recognised as vital in raising levels of knowledge and expertise. But why should development stop at the boardroom door? Well, for many years it was assumed that directors didn't need specific training for their role. Conventional wisdom dictated that business experience was qualification enough. But with the spotlight on corporate governance and board performance, it's now critical that director training should become the norm. Hello there. So what format should director training take? Well, to find out, we're joined by Robert Jelly. Robert is Director of Education at CIMA, and also by Simon Bull. Simon is Head of Chartered Director at the Institute of Directors, the IOD, to tell us about their combined diploma in company direction and the IOD's professional qualification, the Chartered Director. So a very warm welcome, Robert and Simon. Thanks ever so much for joining us to tell us about all this, because it all sounds rather an exciting development. Let me start with you, Robert, first of all. Why did CIMA decide that the director development route was right for your members?
CIMA's main purpose is the ever greater employability of our members. And we also aim to provide professional development for all accountants in business. What we've discovered through market research with our members is that those who are and aspire to be board directors need to benchmark their knowledge, their experience, their understanding with best practice in the marketplace. And when we began to discuss with the IOD some product development, we recognised that this diploma that they had developed was something that our members needed.
So why the partnership with the IOD then, Simon? What's in it for you guys?
Well, I think, as Robert said, given CIMA's standing matched with that of the IOD, I mean, where the IOD has come from is, over its 100-year history now, 100 years plus, we have developed training and development programmes for directors over about the past 40 years to deliver specific and bespoke training for those in the boardroom in order for them to fulfil their responsibilities and duties to their companies and organisations. And I think what we look to do with CIMA, top CIMA members, is to equip them with the skills perhaps outside of their vocational accountancy set with those necessary skills, those more generic skills and strategic skills needed in the boardroom.
So you're hoping really to raise the standard and the whole level generally, aren't you?
Absolutely. We saw the IOD as championing the increasing professionalism in the boardroom, and that's also important to CIMA.
Yes. So a very positive step forward.
Indeed.
OK. Well, tell us a bit more about the diploma in detail then. I mean, how long is the course? Do you have to go to university? Do you have to go and study for it? What's the setup?
Yes, no need to go to university. Essentially, 7 facilitated modules that are delivered over 13 days. And those 13 days are stretched through approximately 8 months of the year. And the arrangement we have with the IOD is that those participating in the programme can come to our global headquarters here in London, CIMA's global headquarters, and we run the courses there.
So how is the method which is used to deliver the learning, how is that different from university?
In a number of ways, I think. First of all, the tutors who provide the facilitated courses do consult both with myself, with Simon, and look at the profile of those who are attending the courses to identify their background. And it's very much an interactive process. I think they draw on the experience that the participants have had in their professional career. But equally, they bring together people who are able to network. It's not simply coming on a course. I think it goes beyond that. They're able to interact with each other out with the programme, learn from each other. So it's highly interactive, and it taps on their existing experience.
Well, indeed, Robert. I mean, we're talking about people who've already got a lot of experience in business, haven't we? I mean, does that mean that they can be exempt from certain study days?
They may well be exempt, yes. What we're not looking to do is to deliver a programme or indeed individual courses that already matches the individual's experience and qualifications. It's very much from a director's perspective. And this, as I said before, is taking people from the T-bar, as it were, from the T-bar of their more narrow and vocational experience in terms of their accountancy set, finance set, and then the broader set there. But I think what we also can do is, rather uniquely, it's a programme that's developed by directors and delivered by directors or indeed business people, rather than academics. So there's people there that really have been at the cutting edge of business, know what some of the issues are, and indeed can can converse very astutely with the delegates.
And presumably they wouldn't want to miss out on too many study days, because then they'd miss out on the networking opportunities.
Absolutely. And so the 13 days are actually compulsory. The advice is that people should attend all 13 days.
For their own benefit.
For their own benefit. But in addition, obviously, our members have broad and deep experience in finance, and there is a finance module, but we have tailored that for our members' needs. But we still insist that they come along and, in fact, bring themselves up to date, because finance isn't a static discipline. It's evolving and growing all the time.
Well, indeed. Well, let's go through those modules now. So what areas do the 7 modules in the diploma cover? First of all, the role of the company director and the board explains how a board should operate, the director's personal and collective responsibilities, duties, key tasks and legal liabilities. The Director and the Law explores further the legal duties, responsibilities and liabilities of a director. The Finance Refresher develops an understanding of the role of finance in supporting the agreed strategies and in monitoring and controlling performance. Strategic Business Direction explores the role of strategy in defining and agreeing the future potential of the organisation, and helps develop skills in strategy formulation, implementation and management. People Mean Business looks at the issues of aligning human resource strategies to business goals. Effective Marketing Strategies looks at why marketing is important, how marketing strategies are devised, implemented and controlled in order to create customer value. And then finally, Leading Strategic Change, how directors and boards provide direction and leadership in the formulation and implementation of strategic change. Well, a comprehensive look there at board activities. But what is it that makes these modules so important to aspiring directors? Well, let's look first at the role of the board and the law. Well, presumably, Robert, most candidates will have studied this, won't they, in their professional exams?
They have, but many of our members, as they progress through their career, will have quite a large gap between when they've studied the law and law today. And so again, it's about refreshing. It's about looking at it as it applies particularly to the board. So it's the law as it relates to strategic issues rather than, if you like, the legal day-to-day impacts that the law has on companies.
OK, I was curious about this one, the People Mean Business module. Now, I mean, that sounds to me like a classic human resources management module. Is it not?
And we don't think it is, in fact. Again, it focuses on the role that people can play in the strategic direction of a business. Obviously, companies are investing large amounts in their people. There's often the cliche that people have become companies' most important assets. So it gives the participants the opportunity to look at the role that people play in strategy, how the people asset can be measured and how it can improve its performance.
So, Simon, we're not talking here about teaching the mechanics of human resources as such.
No, I mean, the programme as a whole is based on the 3 pillars of what it is to be a director. I mean, that includes the role and the duties, the legal obligations, quite importantly, and the finance side, which we've covered. But then the strategic side, which also includes not only strategic direction, but the HR and the marketing side. So within all of those areas, we're looking at what it is to use people as a resource and to use marketing as a resource in order to deliver the best direction for the company itself.
As a strategy for the whole business. And then finally, there's an exam, isn't there, at the end? What's that like?
Yes, it's a 3-hour exam covering all of the topics covered in the 7 modules. It's an objective test, multiple choice exam, and we think that's appropriate. It basically covers the full width and depth of the syllabus.
Well, once candidates have obtained the diploma, they can then pursue Chartered Director status. Now, why did the IOD, Simon, decide to introduce this qualification?
Well, the IOD has been running development courses for the 40 years or so now, and Chartered Director was launched in 1999, so it's still a relatively new professional qualification, but indeed, in its short time span, it's already seen as an equivalent of, indeed, chartered accountants, chartered engineers, chartered surveyors, and so on. And the reasoning behind it is, in much the same way as those other professions are creating integrity and improving performance of the individuals that achieve them, it's creating the profession of what it is to be a director. I think the focus on the boardroom, the focus on directors now has never been as great. from the press, the media, regulators, government, and so on. And Chartered Director looks to fill that gap, as it were, to say, here I am as an individual director that can act with integrity under a code of conduct and act in a professional manner.
So it's seen as a benchmark, effectively.
It's very much a benchmark.
And how can directors gain that status?
They gain the status by firstly undertaking the programme that we've talked about, and that really underpins Chartered Director. They then progress through the exam into what we call the professional review stage for Chartered Director. And that comes in two elements. The first, they complete what we call a portfolio of experience, where they outline their experience as a director. And then that is forms the basis for an interview. And it's around an hour interview with a panel of two very experienced IOD members, directors themselves, that will assess and appraise the individual's experience.
So that in order to get to that interview position, they first of all got to fill in the portfolio of experience. What do you expect to see there? Well,
the portfolio we provide is a template which has a series of guide questions in there, but the fundamentals of the portfolio are really the fundamentals of what it is to be a director. So it's split into four sections, where we ask for evidence of setting vision and values of the organisation, setting strategic direction, which clearly is important, as we've covered in the programme already, delegation to management, and accountability and responsibility to shareholders and or stakeholders. So the individual gives their own evidence of their own experience in those areas, and the IOD indeed is there to help and support candidates through that stage.
But you must be looking for specific skills.
It's not so much skills, it's really the experience, and we're not necessarily judging the success or indeed the failure of an organisation, because we can have some people come through that perhaps have been enormously successful, but others that maybe have set the right strategies in place, but they just haven't worked for whatever reason. So it's not so much about skills or necessarily competency, but experience that is valid as a director.
Section B of the portfolio contains 4 areas for candidates to consider when describing their contribution to and participation in the work of the board. Vision, mission, values, establishing the company's vision, mission and values. Strategy and structure, setting the corporate, company or business unit strategy and structure. Relationship to management, delegating to, supervising, controlling and monitoring management. And then accountability and responsibility, exercising accountability to shareholders and responsibility to relevant stakeholders. Well, Simon, what I'm concerned about here is if candidates have held a number of directorships, how do they know which ones to include when they're applying?
Well, that's a very good point, because we're often dealing with very experienced directors that may well have held a number of directorships over a number of years. What we say is that there is a minimum requirement of 3 years' experience as a director, and that must be in the recent past. But having said that, it's up to the individual, with obviously guidance from the IOD, as to which directorships they wish to include. And they have up to a maximum of 3, but they can base it merely on just 1.
And then presumably there might be other experience as well which they'd like to include, which isn't specifically within their directorships. Is there scope for that?
To a degree, yes. We ask for a candidate profile, which is a form of templated CV. But fundamentally what we're looking for here is directorial experience rather than merely management experience, because this is a directorial qualification. So anything that's management or more operational driven experience, really we're not that interested in.
And is the diploma and chartered director UK qualifications only?
At the moment, the diploma programme and chartered director is largely UK based, but that's not to say that we don't have chartered directors that are overseas from the UK, and the programme itself is delivered overseas as well. But it's primarily UK based at the moment, but we're already looking at ways of expanding chartered director into the international market, because after all it is the only professional qualification of its kind, and it has that credibility and that credence that other countries could adopt.
Yeah, it's got that cachet, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
How far down the road are you? How many directors have already taken up chartered director status?
We have currently around 430 chartered directors elected, but the pipeline coming through, including SEMA members, goes into the many hundreds, and we're expecting to populate UK boardrooms with chartered directors in the majority within the next 10 to 15 years.
Right, so not just UK directors?
No, and SEMA is very interested in that expansion overseas. We have chartered management accountants working in over 100 countries throughout the world, and our members are keen to obtain this benchmark as they serve on boards of directors in other countries throughout the world.
What sort of feedback have you had so far?
We've had excellent feedback from those who participated from very many different backgrounds. They've thoroughly enjoyed the course, they've enjoyed the networking, and have passed the exam, which is good. But it's a springboard, as we've said, not just the diploma, but a springboard to Chartered Director. And our members are familiar with gathering practical experience to become a Chartered Management Accountant. It's not simply about passing out exams. They also need 3 years of minimum relevant practical experience.
And good for your CV, presumably, Simon.
Absolutely. I mean, there's clear evidence that those that have gained Chartered Director and indeed been through the programme, how much it's improved their individual performance, but most importantly, perhaps their business performance and that of their organisational company.
Well, indeed, because that's the next step, isn't it? I mean, it has to follow that if people are that much more professional and now have so much more to be able to bring to their companies, that their companies indeed will reap the benefits. And is that what's happening? Is there evidence of that?
Yes, we're already beginning to see evidence of that, most notably within the investment community, and some of the major institutional investors, as well as major clearing banks, are all supporting Chartered Director now, because after all it's in their interests that companies are run effectively and properly to improve the value and their return.
Now, the only thing is, Simon, what about for people who are directors who don't have Chartered Director status? And what disadvantage does it pose for them?
Well, I think that the times are changing. One only has to look at the media interest and the various research and reports that go into companies and good governance and effective boardrooms at the moment. The combined code has just been revised. There is a huge focus now on director development, continuing development for directors, and Chartered Director very much fills that hole.
Are you concerned at all about that, Robert?
No, not at all. I think it is about raising the bar. I think because of all of the scandals and the focus, the spotlight on governance, I think it's about creating this new benchmark which people will be attracted to. And I think it's also about equipping directors to ask the difficult questions, before they become a problem for the company.
So a very positive step, gentlemen. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
Not just that, but a much-needed duo of qualifications to improve board performance. Well, many thanks indeed to Robert Jelly and to Simon Bull there. And there's more on this subject from them in the study notes, so do have a look at those. But for now, from all of us here at Einstein Network, till the next time, goodbye.